Welcome to Body Bags. My name is Jeremy Geiger. I'm one of the co-owners of City of First Cremation and Funeral Service. This episode is brought to you by Kokomo Lantern, and today I just kind of want to keep hitting home some topics. These next couple of episodes kind of go in a chain with one another. One thing that I've been asked recently is, and I've even been questioning it myself, what is the purpose of a funeral service? What's it mean to you? What does it mean to you as a friend that's lost somebody, as a child losing a parent, sibling losing another sibling or parent, or a grandparent loss? I think the purpose in my aspect of a funeral service is for the closure of us survivors here that are left with this huge loss. It gives us a time to honor them in different manners. And when I mean different manners, sometimes we experience funeral services with the body casketed. And we get to spend time with them where we can actually touch them physically. You get to have conversations with them that may be more impactful for you than at the bedside when they've passed away. It's given you a couple of days to put these thoughts and these memories together to have that moment of closure for you. I think the other things with the funeral service and what its purpose is that healing. The healing of that loss. There's different ways we can heal from it. There's obviously what we're very used to of the biblical and scripture portion of funeral services, where we hear a minister or a speaker eulogize about words of comfort, making it to heaven. Our Father's mansion already has rooms for us set, things of that nature. But the other things that I see are important aspects are pieces of music. In the funeral industry, there's ones that we kind of joke about that we hear a lot, but if you really take yourself out of it in the funeral industry and put yourself in that setting as a person with a loss, the Vince Gill, "Go Rest High on the Mountain." That's always you hear it a lot. It's always the running joke in the funeral industry of, oh, we played the classic song, "Go Rest High on the Mountain." Well, it brings a lot of comfort to us, and there's a lot of meaning to those songs that are being played. Sometimes the songs that are selected may mean more to the deceased, more as like a farewell or parting song as they are leaving you survivors behind, telling you that it's okay that I'm gone, share my memories, share my stories. It was a good life. Those are the things that I think are really important with the music in my eyes. Sometimes it also helps set the tone for that celebration of life or funeral service. I've played songs and it sounds interesting. I've had Louisiana brass bands come and play, where it was more upbeat, more celebration. It was nothing somber. It was truly a party for this person's farewell, goodbye. Where other times I've heard songs that may just kind of set the tone of sorrow and sadness and the hurt of the loss. And that's okay as well, because they are hurtful, they are painful things to go through. Another purpose and reason for funeral services, or in my opinion, is religious aspects. We can take it all the way back to Viking days and Viking culture, where we were putting coins on their eyes when we would cremate them or bury them. That was to pay Odin to get across the river of Hades. Sometimes I feel these funeral services that are more religious oriented are signs and signals to us survivors that there is a life after this, that there's things beyond this. Each religion's a little different, so your faith would dictate what you believe in there, but it does give comfort to us survivors that are there or attendees of this funeral service. It helps us understand what that person's values and beliefs are as well. You know, they may have been a really good friend with you that you played golf with every Thursday, or they were a person that you played pickleball or basketball with once a week or once a month, that you showed up for tournaments or open play, whatever it may be. You knew this person on a different level than what their maybe spiritual or final wishes may be. So I think it's very interesting to see some of these funeral services on how vast they are different. And I think that's a good reason for having a funeral service, and it doesn't have to be necessarily that funeral service of traditional casket in place. A lot of times when I see the cremation side of things, it tends to be worded as a celebration of life. I don't see too many traditional families use that word. I feel they're getting more comfortable using that word because we are celebrating somebody's life. It's not a sad story in most instances. The death may be a sad story, but the life and the impact that they left is not truly a terrible, sad story. And even sitting with families, working on obituaries, they kind of see things maybe at a focal point, and they only are focusing on a few months of their life, and they'd been really sick or they'd made bad decisions that led to this death. And I try to get them to talk about things that are outside of that period of time, when they were healthy, when they were able to travel, when they were able to go to those leagues or free plays, whatever they were. I think the purpose of the service is very important to our culture, to our being as a human. We have these special connections that are very amazing. There's people that study animals and find interest on how animals create pacts and bonds with one another. It's even more incredible to see it on the funeral service side. These bonds that we see, they may be friendships over a lifetime. As we know, we get older, these friendships are still strong, but their connections may not be daily. So it's really neat to see those friends, those extended family members come back to these services to be able to share these memories and these amazing experiences that they may have had with this deceased. The other purposes that I see with these funeral services, they give people an opportunity to learn more about what we do as an industry, what they see as an important value to them. When you're dealing with funeral homes and death, reflect back on your past experiences. What were things that you really liked about the funeral service? What were things that you didn't like and you don't want to experience maybe again? It could be something as simple as, I didn't like being at this venue because I was cold, or the sun comes in a particular way and it makes it really hard to see the minister when they're speaking because I'm blinded by the light. I mentioned some of these things because they're things I've noticed being in different facilities. those are things that I feel are important when you're trying to decide what the purpose of this service is. It doesn't have to be any more necessarily controlled by a funeral home. We're dealing with this newer, younger generation that likes to do things their way and be in control of it. So these funeral services anymore, they're not necessarily at the funeral home. They're not at the church all the time. They're going to public places. They're doing it in parks. I've seen them rent out VFWs. I've seen people do golf outings as a funeral or a celebration of life. It's just really neat to see the different ideas that families kind of come up with. It just needs to be expressed by the family as something, as a concern of yours when you're dealing with the funeral home. Tell them the purpose of this service. It really helps us as a funeral director to help guide that service. We are used to doing services, and I've worked in many different areas in Indiana, and yeah, funeral service is the same, but there's little caveats to each community on how they like to run their processions through town, how the cemetery works, some of those different things. So expressing it to that funeral director about what you envision the purpose and the impact of what this funeral service may be is going to be helpful. Speaking with that person who is going to eulogize or be the master MC for the celebration of life. And why I say that is because I have more recently been seeing close friends or extended family members that start speaking at these services, and they kind of lead the service in the manner that they want. We help them with that kind of order of service or how the flow of that service should run. But I'm hearing a lot of positive things about this. And that's why I kind of brought to you, what is the purpose of a funeral service to you? Is it just tradition? That's what we've always done. That's what our culture does. Or is it, I found a lot of meaning in that, being able to go and see the person, to touch their hand, to say the final words of goodbye to them, seeing their memorabilia, seeing what their interests were, knowing that person a little deeper. Another thing I like to mention in these funeral services, if you've ever had me as a funeral director, sometimes I use this at the church. Just really depends on where I feel the final disposition is, because if we're talking cremation with the body present, we're not going to the cemetery, so I'll use this speech there. But if we're at the cemetery for an earth burial, I always like to encourage the guest not only to support the family in those, but to keep that person's memory, their story that's going alive. I like to mention that, whether it's a song, whether it's the farm fields getting harvested, it's a fresh cut lawn, it's a first rain of the spring. When these memories, these thoughts that trigger the memories of the person you lost, stop, share that experience, share that memory, share that story of that person you lost with everybody around you. It's not to tell somebody or those around you that you've had a loss and you're dealing with grief, but it's keeping the legacy of the person you lost alive. It's giving those that may have knew Tim, but didn't know Tim very well. He was just an acquaintance. And it's important because it helps us through these times of loss, of grief. times of depression and anger. They're all different phases of grief, and they're not easy to navigate or maneuver through, but they are important to utilize some of the positive things to cope through those difficult scenarios that you're in or feelings that you may be in. So that's what I feel are some of the purposes of the funeral services. Some of the other coming episodes, I'm going to talk about what things you may want to talk about with that funeral director as well, to give them a good foundation for that service. I want to leave you with some different ideas. I mentioned a lot about grief and being a survivor. Here in Kokomo, we have a couple of different open organizations for grief support groups. Joyce Brooks runs one called Grief Share here in Kokomo. They meet once a week, and they have open discussions about the feelings that you're going through and the experiences of the loss that you're going through with other individuals that are going through these same things. They're not all first-time comers there. Some of them have been there for several months working through these things, and they're making connections with other individuals to be able to help them navigate through some of their grief and their loss. Another open organization is Widow's Purse by Sana Flores. She has developed a really neat program where it's right now it's kind of focused, I should say it originally was focused for just widows themselves, how they are dealing with the loss of their spouse. She's made connections to help them get through some of the things that are a challenge for them that they never had to maybe worry about. Some of them would be maintenance around the house, or help getting things from the grocery store or from the car into the house. Helping some of these widows make adjustments financially because they've lost a source of their income as well. This group is an all-female based group. She tends to meet a couple weeks a month, and she does some open things with them where they get to actually go out and do fun things, where it's not necessarily a moment of sharing these grief and sorrows and troubles that you're experiencing, but getting out and doing some neat fun activities. I know they've been to like Fired and Art Studio. They've had some financial businesses go in and talk to them about finances and budgeting a little better. There's just so many neat things that Sana is developing, and she's now seeing that it's bigger than what she ever anticipated, and that it's not just a widow, it's a widow's child even, or it's a widow's brother. She's seeing that there are other needs out there and is working towards getting some of those needs addressed. If you have any other questions about grief support groups, contact a local funeral home. We have some great resources through local churches as well, where you can deal with some counseling through them. Or we've got some open groups where it's more of a group therapy session where you can kind of maybe not feel so overwhelmed by one person trying to work through these things. Maybe you show up for a couple times and it's just hearing the other people's stories and realizing that it's not just you that it's experiencing these issues, that it's a whole group of individuals, and it's a tough journey to walk, definitely a tough journey to walk, but they say time heals all wounds, and it doesn't. Time just gives you ways to cope with the loss, and it's better to look at it that way. So this does conclude my services here for you on this episode. Once again, I'd like to thank the Kokomo Lantern for doing these podcasts, and City of First Cremation for being available to provide you some insights of what it is as a funeral director, funeral home owner, and insights into the funeral industry, because it's really changing a lot and it's neat to see on a daily basis. But thank you all for being here. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share. Bye.